I'm iCaveDave, and on today's show, Samsung upgrading production for 120Hz iPhones, lightweight Apple VR headsets, and the future of HomePod and Apple TV. Let's get into it, but before we go too much further, this evening we are doing a live stream for iCave Answers at 6 PM GMT, so make sure you hit subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss it. But Samsung are upgrading their production for 120Hz iPhones. iPhone users everywhere have been demanding 120Hz ProMotion displays for years, and the feature being missing from the iPhone 12 is probably the main factor in why it was such a complete failure, setting new sales records and being on track to hit 250 million units in the first year, beating the iPhone 6, which held the previous record of around 213 million units. So it wasn't a massive failure regardless of what people thought. Every time I talk about 120Hz, I have to point out how little I personally care about this feature. And right now I don't care whether it gets it or it doesn't. While a whole bunch of tech channels, former Apple sheep Tailosive Tech, I'm looking at you, said that without ProMotion the iPhone 12 Pro and Pro Max would completely flop, and they couldn't have been more wrong. The Mini, if anything, has been the closest to a flop, and even that has sold a substantial number of phones. Not as many as expected, but remember, for Apple this is a very good result, as it means people are actually trading up to the more pricey models. And apparently at launch, the Pro matched the standard 6.1-inch iPhone 12 for units shipped. All of that said, I do know that people care. And I also know that once this gets into my hands, maybe I'll care too. I'm far more interested in it as ProMotion, not 120Hz. It's variable refresh rate, so it can be slowed down to reduce battery use when the images are static, and increased to make animations more fluid when it's needed. ProMotion will be made possible by LTPO panels. And what is LTPO, you might ask? It's probably been something you've heard of, but don't know what it means. It stands for low temperature polycrystalline oxide, and was developed by Apple for their Apple Watch displays. On Apple Watch, these can drop as far as 1 Hz, or Hz. Answers on a postcard, please, or at least in the comments section on how I'm supposed to say that. Now, I believe that the iPads Pro can drop down to 48 Hz, which means cinematic content will always look awesome at 24 frames because it's a nice, easy number to divide. But I think if it's coming to the iPhone, Apple will use the 1 Hz minimum, as this means if it makes sense, an always-on display could come to the iPhone, just like on the Apple Watch. I'd put this down as an option, not as a default, but we've certainly had some great concepts for what this could look like, simply showing the icons for apps that have notifications on your home screen that become notifications when you raise your iPhone and unlock it with Face ID, or the underscreen Touch ID that we're expecting this year too. Of course, adding ProMotion to the iPhone is where the vast majority of Apple users are, not on iPad Pros, which means that the high-end games will more than likely include it, like Call of Duty Mobile, PlayerUnknown Battleground, or PUBG, if you're learning all the acronyms today, and PUBG will support ProMotion. As usual, Apple will most likely add these things to their own apps as well, so expect support in things like iMovie and, more importantly, Apple Arcade. I wouldn't be surprised at all to find out that Apple Arcade games can support ProMotion from the day that the next iPhone arrives, as that's the place that Apple has control over what's in the App Store. Just like if Apple was to announce an Apple TV with 8K support, I would expect that they've already made sure that all of their original content is produced in 8K, or will at least be ready to upscale on our side. And when they bring ProMotion to the iPhone, they'll already have that reason to have it ready. And as Apple was testing ProMotion for the iPhone 12 series, I'd assume that Apple Arcade might even already be prepared. The only reason we don't already have ProMotion in the iPhones with 120Hz refresh rate is because nobody could actually make enough panels to supply Apple last year. So bring on 2021 iPhones, I guess. Apple's VR headset will weigh almost nothing. In a new report from Ming-Chi Kuo, the Apple VR headset is set to slash the weight compared to the competition, weighing around 150 grams in total, or about the same as an iPhone SE. Compare that to the competition, which are generally 300 to 400 grams, almost double to 3 times the weight. How can this be possible? Well, Apple is planning to use a triple-stacked custom polymer Fresnel lens for each eye. As much as that is a really catchy name, I'd assume that Apple will probably find a slightly shorter way to call it, maybe the Retina lens, but let me know your naming guesses for this and for the whole VR system down in the comments. Now, these are still pegged to have a very high price point, around $3,000 according to some reports, which is 10 times the entry point for the market, which honestly to me seems unlikely. I know that Apple has a reputation for high prices, but in recent years Apple has been far more reasonable in many areas. Yes, they did just release a $549 pair of headphones, so they're certainly not adverse to premium options, but still. Making that the entry price for a whole platform, the price of 3 MacBook Airs or nearly 4.5 Mac Minis seems a lot. Plus, we still don't know what Apple would be aiming these at. They're not big in the gaming space, it's unclear how people would use these for productivity, or whether Apple would do some sort of spatial audio equivalent for Apple TV Plus. But are you going to pay $3,000 for that? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And will Apple be able to attract enough users to the platform to make it attractive for developers to put apps on it? HomePod Secrets. It seems that as soon as Apple had discontinued the HomePod Big, everyone started taking more notice of the Mini, including Bloomberg, who discovered unused sensors in the base. Now, disappointingly, these are not psychic wave monitors that could later be activated for mind control to remove all that pesky talking that we have to do right now, like cave people, but a temperature and humidity sensor. While my first thoughts were that this was for some sort of weather station, a short period of reflection and self-flagellation made me realise that this might be less effective indoors. Most likely these sensors are to be used to monitor temperature and humidity of the room they live in, enabling them to communicate with your heating or air conditioning and manage these on a room-by-room basis, adding to Apple's HomeKit ecosystem. Apple actually spent a lot of time talking about HomeKit without really talking about HomeKit at WWDC last year, integrating video doorbells into your Apple TV display and allowing Siri to announce the name of people that it can recognise at your door. They also talked about more secure locks and much more. And speaking of much more, basically on the same day that somebody broke their HomePod Mini and found spare parts hanging out in there, someone else was busy pulling apart the messy bits that make up the software inside. I do hope they wash their hands. That person was Steve Moser, who found that the Apple TV 14.5 beta for Apple TV has added FaceTime, iMessage and AVF capture frameworks to the operating system, and tvOS is what Apple's HomePod software is based upon. So that's interesting, as HomePods and Apple TV have one thing in common, which is that they don't have cameras for FaceTime or capturing images. Now, the HomePod can already use FaceTime audio, which makes a lot of sense, but I would point out that over the weekend, before these reports dropped, I posted a video recorded earlier that week answering a question about what would be next for the HomePod, and I definitely said they may well have something else coming out. It might be more of a home smart hub thing that includes a speaker, or maybe they're going to do something along the lines of Amazon Echo Look or whatever it's called, which is their kind of version with a screen. Maybe they're going to do like a standalone iPad that lives in your kitchen. That was not a leak, but just what might make sense if Apple are pushing into the home automation market a bit more. And in the past couple of years, the Siri team has hired a lot of people. Now, I do think that our next Apple TV could come with a camera bar that lives on top of the screen, though. A bit like the Wii used to have, but with a FaceTime camera, possibly Face ID, and LiDAR to track motion in the room, which, if Apple is going to push harder on gaming, would make a really compelling option. And in 2013, Apple acquired a company called PrimeSense, which was the company that designed the technology and licensed it to Microsoft for Kinect on the Xbox, which was an absolute revelation at the time. Its technology became the foundation of Face ID, so this makes a huge amount of sense to me. Let me know what you think it might be doing down in the comments.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Now, don't forget, iCaveLive later on today. Turn on your notifications so that you don't miss it. I'm planning to do it at about 6 p.m. It is going to be the first time I'm live streaming from the new Mac Mini with M1. It's going to be a different camera, so it's going to be interesting. So it might not work straight away, but we've got a whole bunch of questions already there in iCave Answers. So make sure if you've got any questions you want me to answer, hit me up in the comments now here, or I'll be taking questions from the live stream as well. It got super busy the last time we did it, and we did miss some, so if you want to 100% get your question answered, there will be super chats on, and I promise I will not miss anyone that puts any sort of super chat in. But you also don't have to pay if you want a question answered, but the option is going to be there if you want it answered quicker. So if you need to go somewhere, let me know. One new member today for our notification squad, who is Tony Ward. Thank you so much for joining. If you want to join, don't forget, hit subscribe, ring that notification bell, and let me know, #notification squad down in the comments. See you later on for the live stream.